when we started out, there wasn't that many of us, right? There wasn't that many views. So all the views we have, ideas of religion, our place in the universe, stem from, that small group. And each one, as it became separate individual groups and parts of the world, developed their own. But I think the core ideas are stem from those. It's just kind of branched out. So to say like you choose and you get to pick one and you stick with it, no, that's limiting yourself and your understanding. You have to look at all of them and maybe find some truth in all of them for a holistic understanding of the world. So the first deployment to the Gulf, right prior to the initial bombing campaign against Iraq.
And what year was this? 89.
No, it was 90. I think it was 90.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. I mean, I got to the ship like in August 89, April 89. So shortly thereafter we were deployed. So prior to that initial bombing, we were anchored out in the Gulf, and we have 2 boilers, right? So they wanted both boilers lit off, in case we had to pull anchor and take off. And we couldn't light the second boiler. I don't know if it was 1 or 2, one of the boilers, because there's a light off fan on top of the boiler. So the light off fan is a fan placed on top of the boiler that forces air into the boiler.
Okay.
Because you need, air, fuel, for combustion. So without that light off fan, they couldn't get, they couldn't ignite the jet fuel. Because when the jet fuel comes into a boiler, it's sprayed like a fine mist. I think they call it atomized. It's in a fine mist, and then you ignite it, and they couldn't light it off. So the boiler had been recently shut down, or it was still hot because it's next to the other boiler. I don't know which, but it was hot. So they told me and this other electrician, the senior electrician, they go, hey, we need you 2 guys to take that light off fan and replace it. And it's a process, because if you ever seen an electric motor encased in a steel cylinder, on a ship, ductwork, they're heavy. So it's metal, and it got about 20, 30 bolts all the way around.
Okay.
So we had to climb on top of a boiler that's hot, like 120, 130 degrees, and take off individual bolts.
Is it hot on the outside?
You couldn't touch the bolts with your hand.
So
burn your fingers.
Are you on top of the boiler? Are you touching the boiler? With what though? What are you wearing?
Well, that part, it's insulated.
Okay.
It's just not pure, but the casing for the fan isn't. So we had to take off all these bolts, and you can't touch them. So you have to work with gloves and try to. And we worked on that for hours till we got that fan. We took out the whole casing and replaced it with another one. We didn't take the motor out of the casing. We didn't need to. So that was like an emergency, right? We're on top of that boiler for hours, working on that. And we got another one installed, and we lit off the boiler. So we were good to go. And
you said the boilers are the size of buildings.
At least like 2 stories.
That's big, dude. That's big.
If I remember correctly, it's probably about as wide. Each one is probably almost as wide as the garage. And then goes up.
And that just tells me that kind of gives me a visual of how big the area is of the ship where you're at working, how big these fucking ships are. How big was your ship? How big was the area where you were working in? And what size, how big is the room where these boilers are at?
It's pretty good sized main space.
Right?
It's not so much wide, but high. Because as you get towards the aft end of the ship, it starts narrowing out. So the engine room is a little bit wider than the boiler room. Then the ship starts curving in, and then you have the boiler room. Okay. And so it's a little narrower, but still pretty good size. You got to climb ladders or stairs to get up to upper levels. So yeah, we did that, and then they started the bombing campaign. We were out there for 30 days, anchored out. Then we pulled into port. We pulled into, I don't know if it's Jebel Ali, Abu Dhabi, one of these ports. And that's when they brought in the semi truck full of beer, and they sold it out the back of a truck for $1 each.
Oh shit.
So after being cooped up on the ship for 30 days, there's a lot of tension and and built up. So everybody gets out there and they just start.
And then drinking. It's fucking $1 beers?
Yeah. So I don't even
fuck. What's okay.
I think they only sold them for $1 because if they were free, then people would maybe indulge too much and drink
I'm
too much.
fucking dumb. Hey, so I know this is 19 years ago. You're 19 years old. What's the drinking age?
I was thinking I was still 18.
What's the drinking age over there?
Oh, I don't think there's. Well, you're not supposed to drink in the country itself, but on the naval base, it was 18.
Boom.
Yeah.
Perfect. Like Mexico.
But yeah, I think that's why they did it, because they don't want you going to Mexico. They don't want, all the 18,
Hey, that's a good idea. That's true, man.
But people went to Mexico anyway.
You're so close. Why not?
You just take the trolley and walk across.
Why not?
Yeah, so they did that with the truck. They sold it to us, and they had armed guards, but they had from the country.
Mm-hmm.
They're military and police force guarding us.
Okay.
So they'd be out there with the automatic weapons and stuff, and they, we love to take pictures with them. We're taking pictures with them, and they're with their rifles, and I got a picture. I don't have it. I should have brought it. We were out there once, and I go, "Hey, can I take a picture with your rifle?" And he gave me his rifle. And then I got, "Can I get your hat?" He had a beret, and I put on his hat, and I had his rifle and a hat, and I was taking pictures with it.
Send that to me, and I'll put it up.
We gotta find it.
I'll put it if you're able to. If you're able to send it to me, and I'll put it right here in this spot.
Yeah, I gotta find it. But the thing is, I think back to it, he didn't unload it or anything. He just gave it to me.
No safety. He trusted. He's like, "Oh, this guy's in the military." You think, what he must have thought that. This guy's in the military. He knows how to handle a weapon. So I'm going to trust him with my weapon. Boom, boom, boom. That's funny.
I look back on those pictures, I go, I wouldn't have given that kid my gun.
Fuck no. That kid, right? 19 years old, fucking 18 years old. Here you go, dog. And you know what? Here's my hat too. Yeah, that's great. I would have took it out, took the round out, and then maybe handed it over to rifle.
So on your day off, right? We were there for days. On your day off, people would just go out and hang out on the pier all day. Then the ship had a band, right? And they go out there and they play.
That's fucking cool.
So you have a truck, a band. Then you have, in addition to all, like a French ship, you had a British ship. I met guys from the HMS Manchester, British ship, a minesweeper. So they invite us onto their ship, and they have a room. They're allowed so many beers a week. So they had a fridge with beer, and we were in there, and their little room drinking beer and hanging out with them.
So you were able to go on other ships?
Yeah. Some of the other people, I think I don't know if it was a Norwegian or Denmark, I forget which Navy, but they had a ship, right? And on the ship they had a club, but it was for enlisted only, not officers. They had a bar, widescreen TV. I didn't get invited, but people came back. They said they have a bar. They have everything. It's like a club.
Why wouldn't they though? That's cool, right?
It sounded like a lot of fun. And a lot of their guys, a lot of the other navies, they had their dress codes are different. So some of the guys had really long hair. And so we had that, a whole mix of all these different countries together. And everybody would end up, because they had a club on the port, for merchant marines and stuff. So we're the U.S., the British, the French were utilizing it, to hang out. It was like a bar, restaurant, whatever. And they had a massive brawl. I wasn't in on that. Massive brawl, right? So they said it was the British against the Americans. But later I found out it was just the Americans against the Americans.
Oh, shit.
It was guys from another ship talking, arguing with guys from our ship. So they try to portray it as, it was like the different militaries. And no, it was
just fucking the Americans getting loaded, arguing and fucking duking it out.
I talked to one of the guys. He said he was trying to crawl under a table to get out of it because every tables were flying, chairs. It was just a, brawl. But when you're out at sea for a long time, there's a lot of tension builds up. Right. And it gets to the point where you're just like, I don't know. Maybe you explain the process, how it works, but it's stressful. You're working like 18-hour days, and you're in such close proximity to people, because your bunks are stacked 3 high, and there's another 3 right beside you, and the space between your bunks and those other 3 is like this. Wow. So you have 3 grown adults snoring, some kind of messy, some leave their stuff flying around, some people step on your bunk to get on their bunk, and they leave their footprint. So you have all these tensions building up while you're out to sea, right? And with that time we were anchored out for 30 days, that's what it really hit off, is there's no outlet. There's no, maybe they have a little gym, you can do a little exercise, but to get off the ship is what you really need. And you don't have that. So when you finally do get off and they introduce alcohol on the pier
All right.
or in that club, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh yeah, man. People are going to let off steam and deal with what they have built while they were out there anchored out.
Every port, every time, not everybody. Some
Every port, every time there's an incident like that.
I don't want to say 100%, but I've seen a few.
Have you been involved in any?
No. I was kind of mellow. So, but
yeah, you're a mellow dude. You're a mellow dude.
And some people are just funny. They drink too much. Like this one guy we used to work with, he drank way too much on the pier, and he fell asleep. Right, and he fell asleep with his glasses on the pier. And then when he woke up, he had a straight sunburn, but he had the glasses. The blue blockers Ace saw?
Yeah. That's funny, man.
And what they would do to other people too. And they had this like game they would play. So if somebody comes back who's been drinking a lot and they fall asleep in because you have a berthing, right, where you all sleep, and they have a lounge. And I never took part about this, but people would fall asleep and they'd go in there while they're passed out and they'd shave like their eyebrows off.
Fuck that.
Or they'd shave one off.
So you have to shave the other one off. You can't be walking around with that. Fuck that. Imagine, dude. That's why, like growing up, that's the kind of shit that happens like at a fucking sleepover.
So the next day we're at work and I go, there's something off. I'm not sure what it is, but you look different. I mean, oh, you have no eyebrows.
Yeah. So you know what happened to him.
Well, there was one case, one of the guys I work with, he had no eyebrows, but they got fried off because he was working on an electrical panel and it exploded.
Oh, shit.
And it burned off his facial hair.
Oh, shit. That's scary.
Well, if you're not careful, you're dealing with 400 volts. It's not 120 in the house.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the stuff you're working with is 400. And one time I was working on I gotta tell you this story. I forgot to tell you the story. Okay, so you have galleys, right? Galley equipment. We're feeding 1,000 people.
And you said the galley equipment is the equipment that gave you the most issues.
The dishwasher.
Dishwasher. Okay.
Dishwasher. So by this time I was working on a panel that controlled the intake and exhaust ventilation above the galley.
Okay.
So it's a 3-wire motor. So if you wire the motor, like you switch wires, say 1, 2, 3, and you switch 2 and 3 and you rewire it, it's going to run reverse. Okay. So there's an intake right above where they put all the food out on trays. It's kind of like a home buffet thing where you walk by and they feed you. And they put it in your dish. So, and you have along that line, you have the intake vents all above that. So I was working maintenance on that motor controller for those vents in the galley. So this one motor controller controlled all the vents above all the food trays. Like I think what you call those metal trays that are warm from
a hot tray.
Like for catering,
Yeah, I think it's called a hot tray.
So it looks like that. So they have these trays, and underneath is hot water that the steam rises and keeps the food warm as they serve it out throughout, whatever hour and a half that they have lunch, dinner. So I think this was dinner, and I had just finished the maintenance. I rewired the controller back together. I put in the fuses. I had the tag clears because you have to, you red tag breakers so nobody turns them on for you while you're working on it and electrocutes you. So I had to go clear the tag.
Dangerous, dude. It's
a big red tag. I cleared it, and to clear a tag, you have to have whoever's on watch in engineering sign off on it. Okay, I'm clearing this tag for you. Go turn it on. So I did all that. And I went back, and we were right in the middle, right before they served dinner. Like they were going to call it. So people hadn't lined up yet, but all the food's there. All the food. I turned on the breaker. I started the controller, the motor controller. I started the motors, but I had reversed them. So all the dust and crap that had collected over the years.
Shot on the food?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, all that food.
You can't hide that.
For like 1,000 people just got, maybe they had 500, 300 worth, they'll refill them, but no, I took out all the food because they served cold cuts afterwards. They served cold sandwiches.
Oh man!
And they were like, they wanted to know who it was. Like, who is this? Who's in this? And I was like,
you can't fucking hide, right? You can't hide. You have to, right? You have to say, I fucked.
Oh yeah, I mean, my shop knew, my boss knew, but I don't think the crew knew, or they probably would have, throw my clothes overboard or something. I don't know.
If they're shaving eyebrows off the dudes who are passing out, imagine what they would have done to you. They'd eat a fucking bologna sandwich.
Well, and you have to, during your time, when you get to the ship, you have to do mess duty. Like I think for 3 months,
What is that?
you have to work in the galley.
Okay.
You know, either washing dishes, deep sink, whatever. So we always have Taco Tuesday, right?
All right.
So
Hey, that's a fucking thing, huh? Taco Tuesday?
they told me, they go, hey, you know, get the lettuce, everything ready for the taco bar, you know, and I go, okay, no problem. So I got the head of lettuce and I shredded it, right? And I put it in there. It was a cabbage. So people were serving tacos and they go, who put the cabbage in there? Everybody was pissed off because it wasn't lettuce, it was cabbage. I thought it was lettuce. So these jobs I had in the galley over time, needless to say, I ended up in the deep sink.
Fuck, the deep sink washing dishes?
The worst job. The big pots and pans and boiling hot water, and you got to wear big gloves. I ended up in the deep sink.
Hey, you ended up in the fucking boiler room? You ended up in the fucking deep sink? What the fuck? You ended up on all the places nobody wants to go.
Well, in the galley, okay, I messed up. I messed up with that. So I don't know if that was before or after I started working in the galley doing my service. But that and the cabbage, I think they're just like, okay, Humanities, you need to
fucking deep sink.
Yeah, you need to go in the deep sink.
Go wash fucking dishes.
We don't need to
go wash dishes, dog.
And I was in the deep sink for a long time, like almost my whole 3 months, washing dishes like that. You know.
Oh man, dude, that's funny.
And so I did that, and then we did the 2 tours and the golf. I came back, you know, went to the Philippines, which was interesting. When we went to the Philippines, I think it was on the way there, though. They were on strike. The people at the base, you know, the military base there, were on strike.
Wait. What do you mean?
They were on strike. They wanted better wages, better insurance. I'm not sure the reasons, but they were on strike. So you had to cross a picket line, like a traditional picket line. You know, I don't even see. Like when the Kaiser went on strike. You know,
I worked at UPS and I was involved in a strike like that, where there was a picket line like that.
So they were on strike. So we had to cross a picket line. So some of the guys were getting hit going back to the ship with the picket signs because, you know, they were Filipino. So they thought they were crossing the picket line trying to...
Oh, shit.
So there was we got robbed. We got robbed in the Philippines, too.
What do you mean you got robbed? Who got robbed?
We did. We were on a Jeepy. And,
what's that? What's the Jeepy?
You know those little Jeeps you ride in with benches? And another one came and cut us off and came on with bats. And they robbed us. So it was kind of like, you know, interesting place.
I've heard a lot about the Philippines, and people that I have spoke to that have went, they have good things to say about it. You know what I mean? But there's always that element and that possibility of that type of shit happening.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, they had a lot of nice places to eat. I mean, they had different, like you want to hear rock music. There was a place we went to go hear rock music, and it was a live band.
That's cool.
Live band, and they sounded just like the band they were singing cover songs for. It was amazing. I was like, wow. You know, here that would cost you a fortune to go see something like that. There, it was free. You just got to.
And then plus the beers are probably cheap as well, right? And the dollar. The dollar goes a long way in the Philippines.
Oh yeah. Well, back then it did for sure. So that was interesting. I went to Thailand. That was really nice. We anchored out and took boats to the shoreline. I went to Guam. Guam was really nice, laid back.
Yeah.
It was slow paced.
So you've mentioned Guam twice, and you said that if you were able to pick a destination
at this age, because maybe when I was that young, it wouldn't be fast paced enough, maybe, but now I would be there. It's like retirement.
No shit. Huh?
I think I retire there. It seemed from what I saw it was slow paced, so I don't know if it's changed.
If you were 18 again, and you were able to pick a place, where would you pick?
Oh, I don't know. I don't even think like that. It's not even me anymore. It's somebody different.
That's somebody different.
I don't even know.
If you were able to pick a place for yourself at 19, where would it be?
I can't get out of this mindset. I just say Guam.
Guam, right?
I just say
Guam.
Guam.
Okay.
Singapore is really nice.
All right.
That place is really nice.
I heard it's real clean.
Oh yeah, very clean. I think when I was there, you couldn't buy chewing gum.
No shit.
I don't think they sell chewing gum. Well, you know, I don't know if you heard about that teenager years ago who got caught tagging or spraying graffiti.
Whooped his ass. They caned him. Publicly caned. So that was in Singapore?
That definitely discourages, you know.
So that teen, just so that that teen got caught tagging, was arrested, and in order for him to be released back to the United States, he had to be publicly caned, right?
I guess that's the punishment. Yeah.
All right.
I think, and there's so many, like say 30, right? And if you fall asleep like at 20, you pass out, they'll let you heal up and they'll give you the other 10 later.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
So say they assign 30, right? You're going to get caned 30 times. So during that 30, if you pass out at 20, they'll let you heal up and they'll give you the other 10 later. Yeah, you don't get out of it. So, somebody might fake it. Oh, I fell asleep.
All right, that's great. Let them pass out. But imagine how much it's gonna hurt after you pass out and your ass is still fresh from that whooping you got.
Just to have to know you're going to go through that experience again.
Yeah, or like, oh, you know what? You passed out. We're going to start all over again.
I guess a lot of people were kind of upset with that. That it was an American, and but I think you go to these places, you got to respect their laws, and
100%.
You can't do. The expectation is you're going to get treated the same way you get treated here.
No,
it's not the case.
Yeah, 100%. You got to respect wherever it is that you're at, and just don't be disrespectful.
And I guess maybe I could say, from my experience as a youngster, naive, very immature, going there and experiencing that, I picked up on that. And I guess overall, maybe, not maybe, I did. I had an understanding that there's a different world out there, people,
Mm-hmm.
and this world I was exposed to here, this little universe, there's a bigger universe out there, and
100%.
different ways to live, and some good, some bad, some are, you see a lot of poverty too in some of these countries, like desperation, things you don't see here, but you kind of, depending on where you go, you might see kind of that level of poverty, but back then I don't think you really saw that here. Well, at least in my experience, maybe during the Depression you would see that, but yeah, it was interesting. It was a good experience. I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that.
Being in
that stuff.
Being in those places where being in places like you just described, where people are like in real fucking poverty, where people are really struggling, day by day. Did you feel kind of like lucky to be an American and being able to come back home to where you knew how your life was? You know what I'm saying? Did you feel like kind of lucky that you were here in the United States instead of there?
More I thought to myself, why is it like that here? Why is it? It's not like I never, I mean, even the infrastructure, the restrooms, like one place we're at, the room, and then there's a back door. The back door opens to an open trench where you use the restroom. Yeah, so somebody in the next room opens their door, you see them, they're like right there. So just like kind of like the infrastructure, like trying to like understand why the disparity between, but then as you get older, you understand the economics of it, the reasoning, the fair, it's that expression, neocolonialism, and I think that's still going on today. So you see a lot of places affected by that. I didn't understand that back then, but you could see that the impact that still has in the world and in these other communities and countries. So as an adult, I understand that now. But back then, I was kind of like, well, why is there infrastructure? Why is there such obvious, widespread poverty here, and as opposed to like in the United States? But then that was a naive view too, because there is that type of poverty when you look at the U.S. back in the Depression, and even today, we're just not exposed to it because we live, in California, which is historically has been very wealthy financially, and and our parents, we weren't exposed to that because they worked, and but I think that naive view as an 18-year-old, I didn't understand that does exist here to some extent. And it did, especially in the past during the Depression, because you look at some of the old photos of the Depression, even that Woody Guthrie movie, if you watch that, that's during the Depression when he lived. So a lot of the movie depicts that era, so it did exist here. So I think that naive view and questioning why it's like that here. Well, it's not just like that there, but I think it's more widespread.
Mm-hmm.
But never like, oh, I want to go back home because it's not there. I've never really thought of it that way.
Right, but
it was just more like a given. That's how it is where I'm at. They see that as it's always been like that, kind of, thinking maybe. I don't know.
That's how it is here, and that's just the way that it is, right? Type of deal.
Yeah.
But that's really cool that you were exposed to that at a young age. At a young age,
But what did I do with it? I didn't do anything with it because I was too young.
You didn't know what to fucking
utilize
do with it. Yeah.
But as you get older and you reflect and understanding and experience traveling, and then it's kind of like getting all the puzzle pieces. You don't know, you're too little to put the puzzle together. As you get older, you get more experience and you build that puzzle up to a better, reflection of the world and understanding of it. And to me, I know we're going off on a tangent.
No, this is fucking good.
To me, that's a lifelong process, intellectual and emotional growth that never stops. And me coming to that understanding has been helpful in, my growth in general. You know what I mean? Just knowing that there's a process and it never stops is enough to like propel you in that direction. You know what I mean? You got to realize that it's an ongoing process to help sustain that process of growth. You never stop growing.
Never stop growing.
When they say, oh, when you grow up or when you're an adult, no, I think that's a misnomer. You never really stop growing intellectually or emotionally. It's a process, And you look at people who are younger and you could see that I don't think they even understand that process. And they're not striving towards it, They're not looking for any kind of enlightenment or understanding of who they are or their place. I think that comes with time and age. And some people start a lot later than others.
Yeah, man. I agree.
And some are already insightful at a young age, and you could see that like already process starting to take hold. So that's how I kind of look at it. And that experience in the Navy and all those experiences taken together, maybe I didn't utilize them and understand that process or the need to continue with that process, but now I do. And now I can utilize all those experiences and put them together to have a better understanding of, the world and my place in it. And that led me to the whole humanities thing, embarking on that journey in the humanities courses. And that was a really eye-opener too. I think that really propelled that, self-growth and development, understanding that there's ways of looking at the world in perspective that is not a Western that we're used to. And looking at the world from those different perspectives, and some of it's a really beautiful way to look at our place in the world, in the world in general, as opposed to, some other ideas of our place in the world where you're just like here fighting against nature and, just subjected to, fate or whoever, more negative, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I don't want to get into specifics and say who or what, define what I'm talking about or name it. But there's just so many alternative views of the world and our place in it that, that it contribute to that growth of a person and understanding.
And all those alternative and all those different views, you as a person, we have the choice to pick the view that we want to have.
Well, I think that's to me, that's like kind of, narrowing your view and your choices. I don't think there's any one view is right, but there's some truth to all of them.
Right. And
whether it's religious or I think as a history of a world, because when we started out, there wasn't that many of us, right? There wasn't that many views. So all the views we have, ideas of religion, our place in the universe, stem from, that small group. And each one, as it became separate individual groups and parts of the world, developed their own. But I think the core ideas are stem from those. It's just kind of branched out. So to say like you choose and you get to pick one and you stick with it, no, that's limiting yourself and your understanding. you have to look at all of them and maybe find some truth in all of them for a holistic understanding of the world.
You said that it started here in a small group, right? And it branched out and got bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Well, they say we were down to, there's a book, and I can't remember it. I was hearing somebody talk about it, that we're, I think it had to be another subject to get into. I had to read a little bit more about it. But anyway, I think it was a smaller group, humanity, numbered in the tens of thousands or less. So everything started from that. So basically, we all come from there. So all our ideas, our way of thinking is from that group, expanded from that group as we grew. Our language, our culture, everything developed from there. So I think you can link back probably everything to that original ideas and group at some point. So to say one is wrong or one is right, or to pick one, it's just limiting yourself. You're like limiting yourself to one branch on the tree. You're going to stay on that one branch. You're not going to climb the rest of the tree. When there's that whole tree, it's just there's so many branches to explore and climb into and see. And so I don't look at it as picking and choosing one or having. Well, you can have the choice to pick and choose and stick with one, but I think that's where all the problems start.
What I meant is that we have a choice to have either a positive outlook on our existence or a negative outlook on our existence. You know what I'm saying? Like we could choose to view our experiences as something that is, instead of viewing the world as half empty, a cup. Instead of choosing to view a cup that's half empty,
Darwinism. The whole thing is Darwinism.
I choose to view the world as a cup that's half full. I choose to be optimistic about every experience that I have.
Well, I like Darwinism, right? Very negative. It's the fittest survive, the weak don't survive. That's to me that's negative. That's like okay. That's to view that like.
That's making you feel as if if I have to survive, I have to be a certain way, right?
I think that stems from a limited understanding, one perspective, one understanding of the world. But there's so many more that aren't so bleak. I don't know.
So check this out. So it all, like you said, it was small, right? A small group, and that from this small group, different ideas grew from this small group, right? And now there's a lot of different ideas that have branched out, and then from each of those ideas, more ideas have branched out, right?
Well, it's like a growth, right? A growth of a tree adds more to the tree, adds more structure, more leaves. It's growing, like a tree does, and all our cultures and everything, language and religions stem from that one tree.
And we can explore as many of those as we can possibly explore, as many of those as we want, and we could pick information from each of those, right? And come up with our own conclusions, our own beliefs, or then we start our own little fucking branch of our beliefs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's like process of growth, right? And you add to it, You
could just keep adding a zero.
You could be like each generation is a new offshoot of that tree, and adding more to it, more knowledge, more understanding. Ideally, but it doesn't always work that way because sometimes we're stuck in, one path. I wouldn't know how to describe it. Like instead of growing naturally uniform, you get these offshoot branches that they cross branches, and it's not good for the tree. And then that's when you get into these more negative kind of ideas and practices and beliefs.
Hey, I have a question. Humanities. What is humanities? What falls under the category of humanities?
History, literature, and cultural studies.
What did you study all three of those?
You have to take all three, but you can have an emphasis in one of them. My emphasis was cultural studies, ethnic studies. So I emphasis in that. Because my emphasis was in that.
The books, the books that you read for one of those classes were fucking cool, dude. The ones that you sent me, I was like, wow, what cool class is this that required for its students to have this knowledge
Well, I'm not sure all the ones I sent you were from this required courses.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them probably were. Some probably were. I got the idea to purchase it from another book for the class, but they all pretty much stem from either the humanities or going back to the graduate studies for my marriage and family therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Because even then we had some instructors that would kind of go on a tangent and talk about what they're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would open up that whole idea of, that more philosophical, who we are and what we're doing here kind of thing. So, yeah, a lot of them probably stem from that humanities course, but some go back to the marriage and family therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing, my experience understanding the humanities is when a lot of the teaching is done through, say like literature, or even like kind of like fiction. Say there's a movie and it's set in this time period, say World War II, right? And it's set in, say, like Leningrad or Moscow during World War II. So the movie depicts two characters going through, say, the siege of Leningrad or whatever. And so you watch this movie. So the movie itself is about these characters and how they survived and what it was like back then. So what does that information transmit? It gives you an insight into the culture, how they lived, the dress, that time period, what was going on. So it gives you insight into the culture and history. Mm-hmm. So you get both. You just get like a dry history, but then that movie depicts the people, the language, how they live, the family structure. It could depict all kinds of stuff. So it gives you insight into that. So when you look at especially movies that depict a certain era, whether fiction or true, it gives you so much insight into those cultures. So I like to watch that because then it like brings their world, or it takes me to the world and a better, deeper understanding of that.
What are some of your favorite? What is your favorite 2 movies based on what you just described?
Oh, my favorite movie is Interstellar. So I know that's a great movie.
That's
you seen it?
Fucking bad.
It's the greatest movie. One of the best sci-fis I've ever seen.
I would place Interstellar up like at least one of my top 5 movies.
That Rotten Tomatoes only gave it 60%?
What?
I think the Barbie movie got higher ratings than Interstellar.
Fucking weirdos. What weirdo gave the Barbie movie a higher rating than fucking Interstellar?
I'm just saying, I don't know, but the thing is, well, going on a tangent, that Barbie movie was like up for Academy Award, and
that's because we're living in a bizarre world right now.
There's no culture.
No, it's like fucking bizarre.
It's hot dogs and French fries.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. Well, at least, not to say in the Hollywood spirit, in the movie spirit, there's this.
And that
no, there's no accurate representation of the culture. That's what I'm trying to say.
And people who are easily influenced are going to be like, oh, so that's what a good movie is, or what percentage of the population is going to agree with that Barbie movie being up for an Academy Award. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe, do I have bad taste if I don't like that Barbie movie? If I don't agree with that Academy Award nomination, do I have bad taste in movies?
No.
No, right? Then what the fuck?
I don't know, man.
Dude, that's fucking crazy. Hey, so what was your favorite part about Interstellar?
Oh, gee, there's so many. I guess the soundtrack. The soundtrack was really good. They timed it had its own soundtrack. They didn't use some old song from the 60s, They actually wrote a score and
Hans Zimmerman.
It was a good movie. But to answer your original question, movies based on
Interstellar.
So, Last of Mohicans.
Fucking bad soundtrack as well.
And Das Boots.
What?
You seen Das Boots?
No.
Oh, you gotta see that movie.
What is it called?
DASBOOT. It's German for underwater boat.
Das Boot. All right.
So, have you seen Last of Mohicans?
Hell yeah. That's another one of my favorite movies because of the soundtrack.
The greatest soundtrack. That guy just wrote it himself and wrote the songs. It was like on a #1 bestseller list for, the top 10 Billboard. The violence.
I put a video on TikTok with I think it's called Promontory. or Pomatory. That was the name of one of the songs.
Well, there's the other one, the Kiss with the violins.
That's fucking bad.
And then they have the violins, solo violin, and then they comes into the orchestra. The orchestra overpowers the violin, and then it's these highs in the orchestra, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah,
I was listening in the car with my kids, but and now I'm going to go on a tangent here. Okay, so I've been listening to different classical music for years, right? I started off with I forgot her name, but she's a British singer. She sang opera, and she went in and started singing her own. So I've always listened to classical, either classic guitar or whatever, classical. So all these years, I've always had like a cheap $100, $200 stereo, right? Never bought a good stereo. So I'm thinking, if I'm listening to this classical songs and this music, I want to hear it like it was kind of meant to be heard, to some extent. So I did some research, and I found this company called Emotiva, and they make their stuff. I think they make it here, but they sell only directly to customers. They don't sell in stores. So the stuff was a lot cheaper. I checked like ton of YouTube videos about it, reviews of speakers, the stereo system. So I ended up buying one, long story short, for 2 floor standing speakers and the, whatever amp thing, whatever. It cost about $1,200. That's it. That's all I got. No stack system. So I got the Prime Amazon Music. So you could stream music in HD, Ultra HD. And I started streaming music, all these old songs, new songs. Oh, it's like they're there playing. Like you close your eyes, guitar. She's right there singing. There's the drums over there. And it feels like they're in the room. There's echoes. Not echoes, but just I guess they call it soundstage. So they call it, how does the soundstage? It sounds like you're listening to the soundstage.
That's bad. Oh,
some of the songs that you've heard a million times, you hear again and you're hearing all this other stuff. All this little like background instruments, these subtleties, and it's like, wow. In the classical music, the violins, oh man, you got to look into it. If you don't got one of those stereos, you got to get one, invest in it, and listen to your music. Stream it. Don't stream it on low def. You got to go high definition. You could set your Amazon Prime streaming for high definition, and any song you want. It's fucking awesome, dude.
A sound system, a good stereo system is a good investment.
Well, I'm not finished with it though, because I've been wanting to get this turntable. It's called Fluence turntable, and it has this cartridge. The cartridge itself costs about almost $200 or like $100. So I'm like, because I got albums. I like to listen to stuff on albums too, because it's more personalized. You put the album on, 5 songs finish, and then you flip it over. You're more interactive than just streaming a bunch of music all at once. Because then you forget about its background, but you're constantly switching songs and records. So I wanted to hear my records, because every time I hear a record, it's either too fast or it's too whiny. So I finally bought this turntable. I haven't got it yet. I'm supposed to get it today. I think I'm supposed to get it today.
Send me a video, dude.
So it's $500. $500 turntable. So that system's not going to be a $1,700 system. But when I play those albums, I'm expecting it to hear.
Send me a video. I don't know if it'll pick up and do the sound system and the turntable any justice, but send me a video. I'm just curious to hear a song.
Oh yeah. I'll or if you ever, I'm just down on Columa. If you want to go by and listen to it.
All right. Yeah, hell yeah, man. We can have a beer, dude.
Yeah, if you're thinking about, you want to listen to it. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's like, I had a friend over. I didn't say anything about the stereo, and he was listening. He goes, "Hey, that sounds really good." I'm like, "It's a new stereo. That's why it's $1,000 right there." Oh, but last thing before we go.
Closing statements now.
Das Boots, you got to see it, man. It's during World War II. It's a German crew. So you seen that movie Greyhound with Tom Cruise? So it's about a destroyer crossing the Atlantic to escort a supply ships, right? So Greyhound is American perspective, destroyer captain hunting U-boats, right? Whole movie. It's fucking the gamemanship, chasing the U-boat, depth charges, ships getting hit, torpedoed. So Das Boots is exact opposite perspective. It's the perspective, a German movie, is German subtitled English, of the U-boat. So if you watch boat movies back to back, it's like awesome. You get that perfect perspective.
All right, so Das Boots and Greyhound.
Yeah, Das Boots is gritty. It's like, it goes through the whole recruitment, assigning to the ship, the sub crew working together, and you watch it, and it's like, it's so nitty, so gritty, like you were like almost there on that sub, and you're part of that crew. And it's like a rough life these guys are going through, you know.
In a sub, that's where they what's it called? It's called hot cots or hot beds, where you're some guy sleeping, where you're sharing the same bed.
I know I've heard of that, but I don't remember if they depict that in this movie. But they might. But you got to see that movie, and you got to see Greyhound with Tom Cruise. That came out maybe like 2 years ago, and
it's
the destroyer perspective. So you can say that sub he was hunting was them, and that destroyer that they were hunting is it's taking place in the same time frame, the same Atlantic Ocean, because there was a certain, like in Greyhound they explain it, like you have air coverage leaving the U.S. coast. Once the planes have to turn around because they don't have enough fuel, they need to have enough fuel to get back, the ships don't have any air protection. So during that time frame from the British coast air coverage to the U.S. coast, there's a section of the Atlantic where they have no coverage. So the U-boats lurk and come around at night and start torpedoing ships. So it depicts this captain, this crew are out for like 2-3 days nonstop. Just, kind of like a chess game, the sonar was very, it wasn't really good. You just got to watch it. It's a good movie. And Dawes Boots. I think I got Dawes Boots on Blu-ray if you want to borrow it and you don't want to buy it.
Okay.
But it's really good.
Hey, do you want like closing statements, Doug? Like, you want to say anything before you leave?
No, I think we're just continuing it.
Because I feel as if you and we're not done with this.
No, I definitely agree.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel as if we are actually kind of ending too early. I feel like we're ending early because I feel like you and I have a lot to talk about, Doc.
Well, I especially want to, there's a couple of things I think you'd find interesting. And I just want to kind of read up on them because I want to have some, I don't know, go into it without having any recent.
I get it. Yeah.
Reading of the
100%.
I got a lot of material, and I haven't been in a humanities class since 2014. So a lot of stuff I haven't really revisited, and I have to go through, and there's some particular books like the divination that I want to look for and bring to the table.
All right.
And I got a lot of notes on tarot cards, actually.
Oh, dude.
So we're doing tarot cards we're actually doing it for humanities class.
Okay.
He introduced the tarot cards, but not this magical, mystical thing. It's explained as a way to tap into your unconscious and, or that connected universal and kind of one of those, and to get information out that already is present. But I haven't done any of those things for like years.
Let's plan something soon, right? So that you could fucking blow my mind with that, please.
Well, let me do some reading and look for those books, and then we'll kind of talk about it and kind of figure out where I would like if we can kind of meet before we talk and structure it and say, hey, this is what I want to talk about, and I'll give you the information, my little notes or the books, the names of the books. I don't mind lending books, but I've had experience where I lend out books and I never got them back.
Yeah, I don't like lending books either.
Okay, so I'll give you the booklets. We both agree.
There you go. Just give me the topic and I'll fucking study that topic.
Okay,
and then we'll fucking have a good one, dude.
But let's do this. At Subport, shoot over. I have one book, so we'll look through them, whatever pop you want to discuss. And I'll read up on it, you read up on it, and then I'll show you my high fidelity system. You listen to that, drink a few beers, and then we'll plan the next date.
Let's fucking do it. All right, brother. Hey, thank you for coming, Holmes.
Oh, no problem.
Give me a hug, dog. We fucking started a hug, ended a hug. Love you, Holmes. Thanks, dog. Humanities, round 1. Stay tuned for round 2.